Hello there guys, it's Joey and we're going to have a Wildcrafty Witchy haul and some crystals. I picked up a few crystals at the weekend but not very many, so I thought what we'd do is talk about some stuff that I have wildcrafted as part of a Wildcrafty haul, kind of, and have a little chat about it, talk about it. I think this is something which is key to my heart. I love interacting with herbs and plants and flowers, and I think there is a real sense of witchy connection that comes to us when we work with all manner of earth-gifted, earth-given abundance, and there is a sort of duty tied into that to look after the earth and not to take more than one needs, and to really honour the bond between nature and us as a witch, and connect with the energies of particular plants and take our time to get to know them. So most of these things I have been gifted from my own immediate garden, and or I have been out in this town or the other town where I go to the holistic shop, and things have been gifted, they've been on the floor. And I think when you are gifted something like that, you should definitely pay attention to it. I always do. And when I was out last weekend, I shall zoom in, not quite, there we go. I was gifted these on the floor. These are alder from the alder tree, they are alder seeds, and I shall read to you from the Herbal Compendium just to give you an idea. It's good to have a point of reference, I think. Plus, with migraines, my brain isn't totally with us. So, alder is a sacred tree and figures prominently in Celtic lore. In British myths, Gwydion is able to tell Bran's name, which can be translated as crow or raven, but can also be translated as alder. In Danish mythology, Anne appears as Elechong, later translated as the Earl King. Alder is the fourth letter of the Ogham alphabet. Is also the tree for the first month of spring. Graves associates it with Saturn and Saturday, and I actually found it on Saturday, so that's awesome. Alder is a tree of resurrection. And that's Slavic lore. The bark of alder may be used in most magical workings to promote protection. Powdered bark or wood may be added to almost any incense mixture. The protective aspect of alder is associated with the planet Mars. The association with Venus would include alder's natural green dye, in which the Fae folk have said to dye their clothing. Alder may be included in rituals of death and dying as a means of providing protection for the beloved. Alder as having access to the feminine archetype through the Great Rite, has a strong association with the elements. The red from the dye represented fire, the green from the dye as well, water, and the brown with the earth. Alder is usually freshly in bloom in the spring equinox. So there you go. It's also quite associated with Bran, the Celtic god of the otherworld, because he actually lost his head, but it continued to talk after he had lost his head, and the heads of the alder are said to sort of represent his head. and that's very much of a crow energy and a raven energy. He is sometimes given as the male counterpart to the crone aspect of the Morrigan. It depends how you feel about that sort of thing, but you know, it's a tidbit of information. And along next to that, another flower or herb that I particularly feel has a death element is poppy. So there's a few flowers and then 3 heads. These were from the garden, and you can see the seeds. And they were already dried out on the ground in the garden, so I took them, and 3 being quite a mystical number within the Celtic mythos, life, death and rebirth, is quite important, and because of that I paid particular attention to these. Right, so poppy is again associated with Saturn and Persephone, which were coming up to her time, if you like, to do with autumn equinox. It has been said that the red poppies originate in the underworld. That's interesting. These are from red poppies. They dry out a much darker purple, but they are in fact red. The poppy is also associated with the High Priestess card. Oh, I think that's good. Yep. Sorry about that. Sorry, I wasn't expecting the door to go in the middle of the day. Right. It's not an awful lot of information about the poppy actually. I think I found this before. I was just cross against Cunningham's encyclopedia. Fertility, love, sleep, money, luck, invisibility, often used to aid sleep. They are eaten or carried to promote fertility and attract luck. At one time poppy seeds' heads were gilded and worn as talismans to draw wealth. There you go, I could gild them. I don't think I'm going to have things in the house to gild them, but still. Okay, the seeds were added to foods to induce love and are used in love sachets. If you wish to know the answer to a question, write it in blue ink on a piece of white paper, place this inside a poppy seed pod and put this beneath your pillow. The answer will appear in a dream. So I could do that as well, that's interesting. Soak poppy seeds in wine for 15 days, then drink the wine each day for 5 days while fasting. According to tradition you will be able to make yourself invisible at will. Yeah, in bed being sick. Not sure about that, but poppy has this interesting energy. It's definitely an otherworld energy. It's definitely a sort of transitional energy, transformational energy. Milk of the poppy is actually from history, and most people now probably know it because of its association with Game of Thrones, but it does have a history of being used in medicine to make people sleep and to aid the dying who are in pain. Right, and then next to that, in the back there, is some sage from the garden. It's really interesting, this sage from the garden, because I've been trying it out with everything else and it's still really soft. Like it feels like animal ears. Even looks like rabbit ears. It's really quite soft still, and yet you can hear it cracking. It's dried, or almost completely dried, but it's still really soft to the touch, which is interesting. So sage, of course, is used for a whole mess of things. Most people will know it's used for cleansing and purification. Invocational to Cadmus, Consus, Jupiter and Zeus. Offers virtues of strength, mental health and wisdom, and banishing evil. As a healing tonic, sage is more than remedial, for it can be used to promote health through one's physical, spiritual, emotional and mental being. It can be used to purify oneself, removing negative energy and providing a healthy attitude towards life. It helps one dealing with grief and loss, and helps healing by helping one to see beyond the immediate loss. Old folklore recommends eating fresh sage leaves 9 mornings in a row, timed either with a new or full moon. And so on and so forth. There's a lot of lore to do with sage, probably enough for more than one video. Right, and then as you can see right here, an abundance of wisteria. The wisteria tree had a second flourish, which is incredibly unusual. We usually have one big flourish of wisteria and that's it. But our tree and tree vines and others around the village have also had a second flourish this year, and I don't know if it's the weird sort of weather that we've had this year or what, but we had quite a lot, so I was quite happy to get some more of that, and it's all been drying out in the dehydrator. Wisteria is given as a herb for those who enjoy studying, and the scent is supposed to promote mental clarity and memory retention, and that for some reason the books don't go into an awful lot of detail about wisteria, and so it's kind of one of those herbs, flowers, where I just go with how I feel about it. In the Japanese mythos, it's associated with unrequited love and the sort of hurting heart as well, but the ability to overcome that situation. But for me, I've always felt that it actually encapsulates the idea of romantic love in all its forms. It has this sort of whimsical, fairy tale-esque nature. It's very, very beautiful to look at on the surface. However, wisteria is an incredibly strong vine, and it can crack things and like break things that it's growing up if it's left to get out of control. It has the twisting vine energy as well, so it's very much like ivy in that it overcomes all obstacles, as well as signifying the spiral of life, the labyrinth, the journey within, as well as the journey without into the world. So in terms of love magic, I think it works on all those levels, and for a spiritual energy, I think it has a deep sense of healing for matters of broken hearts and things of that nature. And it has this dream energy, if you ask me, this whimsy, wishful, the heart's longing is how I feel about it, if I had to term it in one phrase. So that's some more wisteria, and then I'm going to have to grab another one of these because I didn't get enough. This is actually rose, and I noticed in the back garden we had some roses come into bloom later than usual, and they were half sort of yellow and half pink, and I think, yeah, you can see how here that they're half and half, and I thought that was really cool how they were half and half roses. I've got a whole video on roses, go check that out for more in-depth meanings of roses. There's just all of that there. Right, and then I got some dandelion heads. I haven't gone overkill on taking dandelion heads this time of year. There was sort of a general pagan call not to go nuts with them because they help bees and things, so I've not grabbed too many dandelions this year. I associated them with wish magic for obvious reasons, and if it's not obvious to you, you blow the head of the clock of a dandelion and make a wish, and it's sort of very much entrenched into English folklore even to this day, and it's one of those really interesting, really fun, really fascinating things that gets passed down even now, that you make a wish, blow on the head of a dandelion. So from Cunningham's book, it's also associated with Jupiter, air, Hecate, divination, wishes, calling spirits. Whew. The root, when dried, roasted and ground like coffee, is used to make tea. This infusion will promote psychic powers. The same tea, steaming and placed by the bed, will cause spirits to send a message to a loved one. Blow it on the head of a seed in his or her direction and visualize your message. Buried in the northwest corner of the house, brings favourable winds, and then of course the wishing magic. And in there as well is a little bit of sunflower petals. They're in the same one because I probably imbue them with the same crystal. That's why all these things are in a little pot. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. I have talked about that before, but we'll mention it again in this video. So sunflowers are actually from the local vegetable and flower shop, and they get everything in locally. They get it from not far away, so it's all local grown produce. They support all the little farms and things as well. They're amazing. So when I can get bits and pieces from there, I do. Now this year has been really interesting for sunflowers because until a couple of days ago I hadn't seen any, like anywhere, and usually they all make a appearance around midsummer. So I was like, it's quite late for sunflowers this year. So when they appeared in the veg shop, I grabbed a bunch and I dried them out. And they will, you know, I bought 4 sunflowers and they will last me all year probably. And I got the leaves, I've dried the leaves out, but they're not fully dried yet, they're in the dehydrator, so it's just a little bit of the flowers there. Obviously it's a herb of the sun. Invocational to Apollo and Demeter, which is interesting because Demeter again, autumn equinox. Solar energy of this herb is readily apparent. The petals may be gathered and used as a bathing herb, although it doesn't suggest. Has a strong association with Lunasar. Maybe Lunasar is actually, yeah, not midsummer, Lunasar. Oh goodness, brain. Somebody's corrected me before I've corrected myself in the comments, I will guarantee it. Right, often associated with the solar festivals, we found out this herb has been linked to many sun gods, particularly Apollo. Has also become associated with harvest deities and sometimes linked with Demeter. For those who are dealing with depression or sorrow, using sunflower will help to fill the loneliness and emptiness with light. Sunflower brings protection against negative energy. May be used as a bathing herb to attract joy. There you go, that's what it's used for. Used to consecrate ritual robes. In addition, can be used to improve dexterity and alleviate clumsiness. Well, I could probably do that. We recommend communication with the sunflower deva and asking for protection. So there you go. And then in another astounding second blossoming, we've got some more foxgloves. I love foxgloves, and I've talked about foxgloves at length in another video as well, but briefly, it's a very Fae-esque flower. You can't eat it, it's toxic if you eat it. Why anybody would eat it, I don't know. But for me it also has this very sensual, very sexual energy. I associate it as sort of between Morrigan and Dagda, the entrance to the other world and the energies of the coming together of sort of lust and sex and love, things of that nature. That's wonderful. And then I also was gifted, this is a piece of yew branch. Again, seeds are non-edible. And yew is a tree, ogham of death and dying. It's often given a bad rep as such, but I never have a problem with the the death aspect of things, particularly because it's the crone element. It's moving into the dark half of the year. Invocational to Mercury and Hecate, one of the sacred trees of the British Isles. Grieve writes that this tree was favoured by druids who built their temples near these trees. There are many ways to work with the sacred energies of the yew. Those fortunate to have outdoor ritual sites might plant one to add a natural sacred energy to all events. The needles can be dried and powdered for incense. Internal use should be avoided. Yeah. So again, there's not huge amounts of information, and it tends to be the case with the sort of death element energies that people shy away from a real discussion about it. Oop. And then this is a lovely piece from my hawthorn tree. Oh gosh. Oh. Alright, the yew wants to fall off. So this is a lovely piece of bark from the hawthorn tree. Some of the spiky spikes, thorns still on. Hawthorn, very protective, very Morrigan-esque. Very much about overcoming trials and tribulations, but it does really help with a barrier hedgerow element. One of the trees to help gain entrance to the other world, so it has a fae association. There is a more love element involved in hawthorn, but not so much with the bark. That tends to be more with the flowers and perhaps the berries. So then I got some rowan. Now, these rowan berries aren't quite dry yet, and these rowan berries are. So these not quite dry ones are going back in the dehydrator. But in fact, now I've showed them, I'm going to move them over here so I don't forget to put them back in the dehydrator, because brains. There we go. So this is a lovely piece of a fallen rowan branch with the leaves still intact, all dried out. Rowan, it's the witch's tree. It's a tree of magic. It's a tree of protection. It's a barrier tree. The wood has been used in charms of protection for a long, long time. What am I forgetting because of my brain? Yes, I talked about protection. The berries or the wood can be used to invite familiars, astral guides and teachers from the world of spirit, and to invoke elemental creatures. May also be used to banish these things when we do not wish them in our lives. Can be used in house blessings in all forms. It is recommended that one plant a rowan near one's home to always be guarded and protected from ill, be it negative energy or people. So there you go. Right. So I'm going to just slowly move little bits and pieces off. I have some little bits, there we go. So we can see the crystals. There's only a few crystals this time round, which is why I've included a lot of the wildcrafting. Before we do that, we will talk about the imbuing process and a little bit about sort of why that is. So I incorporate crystals into my imbuing process with the herbs for a number of reasons. Now, some people can and do leave crystals in with the particular herbs at all times, and if you were using a particular herb an awful lot, I would probably recommend that. However, I don't have, and I have quite a lot of crystals, but I don't have enough that I would feel happy to like leave them in the herbs all the time and forget about them. I'm just going to grab a crystal. Oh, 1 second. Okay, so this is my fire agate. So I'm going to pop the fire agate in with the solar herbs, right? And that's just for an example. Now the process of sort of imbuing these with the crystal is pretty much just placing the crystal in, and allowing the energies to intertwine. You can use your intention and your energy and weave the energy of the two together to sort of form a connection between them if you so wish. However, crystals and plants, they quite naturally chat to one another, being both earth-based, generally speaking, and then having their additional properties besides. So crystals nearly always come from the earth and the ground, nearly always, but they also take on the properties of other elements as well. So fire agate, of course, takes on its property of fire, and sunflowers are obviously a plant from the realm of the earth, but they take on their solar energy, so they sort of interweave quite nicely. And another reason for doing this is that you are honouring the energy of the plant as well as sort of strengthening it. So not only are you empowering perhaps the flower or the herb a little bit more than you might otherwise do, but you're also honouring the energy and honouring the sacrifice again. So you should probably do it threefold. There should be the forming of the attachment, the relationship, the bond, the connection to the plant in question. That's your life. Then you are honouring the sacrifice that the plant makes at the time of its inverted commas death, when you harvest the plant. And that's done in a number of different ways. People leave crystals for the plants, people give offerings of food, water for the plants, and however they best feel the connection with that particular plant and what it enjoys, or what the spirit of the plant would best receive. And that would be your death. And then this, placing the crystal within the herb, is sort of like its rebirth process. It's about giving it new life. That's how I see it. Life, death and rebirth, the cycles of 3, working with plants and flowers. That makes a lot of sense to me, and that's why I do it this way. So there you go. So just a little chatter about that. So finally then, I picked up 3 crystals, 2 little ones, 1 slightly bigger one. All were wonderful. I was really, really pleased. Okay, so the first piece of crystal is a larger piece of kunzite, and that's too far. There you go. So I was actually harping on the other day, and I can't remember if I was harping on video or not. That's how well we've done. About getting a larger piece of kunzite, and the reason sort of for this is that all my pieces were quite little and wonderful for gridding, but I wanted a larger piece for holding on to, for sort of imbuing work, for spell work, for carrying around with me. So kunzite is a natural heart chakra stone. It's very much about healing the heart and bringing love in. Alright, what does the Book of Bibbles say? Crystal Bibble. Yeah, I covered love. I remember love. Also protective, working on the individual and the environment, has the power to dispel negativity from the aura, dispelling unwanted attached energies and mental influences from it. Helping you to be self-contained even within a crowd, strengthens the energy field around the body. Allows self-expression, freedom to express one's feelings, removing obstacles from your path, and helps you to adjust to the pressures of life. So there you go. I really wanted a piece of kunzite that was a little bit larger, and I was really pleased to see one for a reasonable price. Now I don't know if the next one's going to be in the book. Yeah, it's in this one. Okay. Right. So, flicky through the thing. There we go. The next one is a tumble of Numite. I have a double terminated Numite called Mab, who is part and parcel of the Morrigan altar, but I didn't have a tumble. So this is my tumble, and I'm going to move it about so you can see the gold flecks through. There's another one. This was the only one in the box where you could actually see some of the colour change, the colour fleck, and I was really pleased that at least one of them had some colour shift. There you go. Otherwise it looks fairly dark. So it's a shaman stone. It's a sorcerer's stone, a shaman stone, powerfully protective against those who would ill wish you, and psychic manipulation. One of the oldest minerals on Earth, it is an exceptional energy tool for those who have evolved sufficiently to work with its intensity, particularly effective when shaped into a wand to pull out negative energy imprints and implants. Now that's what Mab would be used for rather than the tumble. Spiritually, it assists in seeing beyond the outer facade, creating an inner landscape to be traversed, highly protective, strengthens the auric shield, and effective against negative energies and sorcery, helps travelling with stealth and sureness, and is perfect stone for lower world journeys to retrieve a lost soul fragment or child part. It shields you from sight and safeguards your car. The intense stone has an element of magic that must be used respectfully with right intention, or else it rebounds. Activating the past life and soma chakras, it opens and integrates all the subtle chakras and brings about a profound shift in consciousness. Karmically, it helps recognize past life contacts and highlights debts stemming from misuse of power, reminding you not to repeat old patterns. Placed on soma chakra, it draws karmic debts out of the physical and emotional bodies, and so on and so forth. It's just wonderful. Wonderful. I tend to prefer the more intense crystals. I'm a bit odd. Right. So the last one I was really pleased to see. Right. So, come to me, Mr. Newmate. This is a larger rainbow obsidian. Right. I'm going to move it about and hopefully you'll be able to see the shine. It's almost got a tree-like quality about it, and it's... Hang on. Okay, maybe... Let's see, the problem is... You can see it, sort of, there, and it almost looks like an eye. Can you see it? Almost looks like an eye, sort of looking out in the centre there. It's the window and the light isn't great. Oh, I don't know, that wasn't a bad... Shift it around. It always comes out better than I think it will. Please stop glaring back at me. I don't want everyone to see me hiding behind the camera. So rainbow obsidian, the rainbow obsidian is slightly gentler than a lot of the obsidian, which doesn't bother me in the slightest, but it has its protective properties. It teaches you about your spiritual nature, cuts the cords of old love, and gently releases hooks that others have left in the heart, replenishing heart energy. Worn, it also draws negative energy from the aura and draws stress away from the body. So I really enjoy obsidian energy and Newmite energy. The Newmite's looking at me. Come here, Mr. Newmite. You're shining at me. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy obsidian so much, and I didn't have a piece of rainbow obsidian at all, and I've never seen a really nice piece with a really nice shimmer for a reasonable price, because the rainbow obsidian, oh my goodness, in the UK do they charge a ridiculous amount for it, just because it shines and shimmers a bit and it has a slightly different, but this is a lovely sort of teardrop almost. It fits in the palm of my hand really well. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. The shimmer, I hope you can see. About there? You can see it, you can sort of see it. Anyway, I was really happy with these crystals. Again, they were all from the market this time. I was really pleased. So yeah, so that's it for this witchy haul of Wildcrafted and Crystals. Many blessings.